All right, students, today we are going to cover the lesson at the top of the page. It is 1.R.2, multiplication and division with fractions. So the instructions say perform the indicated operation and simplify your answer. So as you look at these 9 examples all over the page, you can see we're dealing with fractions, multiplying and dividing, but for whatever reason, Hawks threw in some addition. No big deal. I suggest that you go ahead and go to desmos.com and use the free calculator that is available online. There is no need to purchase one. It is free. So when you go to Desmos, you're going to see Math Tools, press the down arrow and click Scientific. And that will bring up your lovely little calculator you need. Now, if you have one at home, you're more than welcome to use that, but this one's free. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with number 1. So if you look at number 1, we have 5/8 times 1/4. And I'm going to go ahead and go straight to my calculator and type that in. You could do it by hand, but it's unnecessary, and you will have a calculator for every quiz, every homework, and every test in this class. So go ahead and get used to it. So 5/8 times fraction 1/4. So 5/8 times 1/4, it gives you a decimal. We don't want a decimal, we want a fraction. And the answer is 5/32. And that is the final answer. 5/32. And just for Hawks, what I usually do, if they give you fractions, you need to give an answer as a fraction. If they were to give you a decimal in a problem, then your answer could be a decimal. That's kind of like the rule of thumb I go by. However, what I highly suggest you do is always practice each lesson before you certify. And now we're going to move on to number 2. Number 2, we have a fraction times a fraction times a fraction, but it looks like a lot, but I promise we're just going to type it in our calculator just like you see it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my lovely Desmos free calculator, and I'm going to go ahead and type it in. We have 16/9 times 24/27 times 39/12. And just make sure you have it right, because once again, every now and again, I do make a little typo. I don't want a decimal. I'm going to press this little button, and bam, I get 416/81. And that is your final answer. All right, moving on to number 3. They threw in a little definition or a little vocabulary word here. It says, find the reciprocal of the following fraction. So this word reciprocal sounds very formal because it is. It's the formal name. But what they're really saying is find the fraction after you flip it. So reciprocal is basically a fancy word for saying flip. So we're going to take our fraction, 3/7. Here's my numerator, here's my denominator, and we're going to flip it. When we flip it, we get 7/3, and that is its reciprocal, and that is your final answer. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to number 4, right over here, number 4. So number 4, we're changing. Here we're not multiplying, but here we are dividing. We have 43 divided by 18 divided by 43/49. So we're going to go ahead and type it into Desmos just like you see it. So we have fraction 43/18 divided by 43/49. Now, some of y'all are probably looking at the screen thinking, well, that does look different, and you are correct. Just keep in mind, so I'm going to go ahead and pause this problem real quick and just kind of explain to you that when you have a fraction, let's make it simple, 3/4. You can write 3/4 like you see here, 3 divided by 4, numerator divided by denominator, or you may see it written like this, 3 divided by 4 with that symbol. This is what it looks like in Hawks. However, this is how it shows up in Desmos. But just know there's another way you could write it. You could write it as 3/4. These all mean the same thing. They're just 3 different ways to write a fraction. So keep in mind, when we work this example, you can write it a different way. So this is the correct problem we have, 43 divided by 18 divided by 43 over 19. And we do get this decimal. We don't want the decimal. We want the fraction, which is, oh, and look, I typed it in wrong, y'all. Whoops, my bad. This should be a 43 over 49. Sorry about that. So just make sure, look at this, perfect thing to go over. Make sure you type this in correctly. A lot of students make errors because they're going quick and they're not paying attention, just like I did. So please be careful. So we have 43 divided by 18, all divided by 43 over 49, and your answer is 49 over 18. 49 over 18. All right, and I'm going to let you go ahead and do number 5 in your Desmos calculator. Get some practice. Go ahead if you need to. Pause this video. Practice this. Practice it, practice it, practice it. 36 divided by 10 divided by 45 over 21. And you should have gotten 42 over 25. All right, and now let's go ahead and move on to number 6. With number 6, don't know why, but they threw in some addition with this lesson, so we're just going to go ahead and go over it because we're about to go over it in the next lesson anyway. Like I said, you could do this by hand, but it's not necessary because you will have a calculator, and we're going to type this whole expression you see into the Desmos calculator just like you see it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my calculator. All right, we have a fraction, 4/9, so 4 over 9, plus parentheses. So parentheses are over here at the bottom. Whoops, why did it do that? Let's just clear. Go back here, thank you. Parentheses, negative fraction, 1/3, close parentheses, plus parentheses again, negative fraction 1 over 5, parentheses. So once again, just make sure you're taking your time, going slow, making sure it looks just like you see it in Hawks. And once again, this is a decimal. We don't want it. We want it to be a fraction. And we get negative 4 over 45. Negative 4 over 45. All right. We're just going to go ahead now and move on to number 7. If I am teaching too fast, the beauty of this video is you can pause it, you can rewind it, you can fast forward it. So please, if I'm teaching too fast, pause the video. All right, number 7, 6 divided by 24 over 49. We're going to type it in just like you see it. So 6 divided by fraction 24 over 49. And as you can see, it's a decimal. We don't want the decimal. We want the fraction, which is 49 over 4. And that is number 7. Number 7. All right, and then we're over here with number 8. 3 over 11 minus parentheses negative 5 over 22. Go ahead, go back to your Desmos calculator, and let's just type it in just like you see it. 3 over 11 minus parentheses negative fraction 5 over 22. Close your parentheses, and you should have gotten you get a decimal, but we don't want it. Press that button and we get the fraction of 1/2. All right. And then moving on to our last one, number 9. It looks a little weird because they don't give you a symbol, but it says find 1/5 of 1/2. And just know this word of is another way of saying multiply. So in your Desmos calculator, type in 1 divided by 5 times 1 divided by 2. And once you type this in your calculator, you should get 1 over 10. And that is your final answer. All right, and now we're going to move on to lesson 1R.2, addition and subtraction with fractions. So back when you learned this, probably when you were in school, they talked a lot about common denominators. When you add and subtract fractions, you do need a common denominator if you are doing it by hand. So for example, if you look at number 1, number 1 is super easy because we have some fractions, numerator, denominator, and if you look, our denominators here are the same, so this is very easy. We have 8 over 13 minus 3 over 13. So in reality, we know our denominator is going to stay the same, it's 13, and we're just going to subtract the numerators. 8 minus 3 is 5. However, you will not get fractions that always have a common denominator. So for example, the one below it right here, number 4. Number 4 does not have one. The denominator here is 20 and 35. So what I suggest is let's just go ahead, be on the safe side. Go ahead, go to your calculator and just type it in. Even if you think you know it, let's go ahead and make sure we know it, and let's just type it in. So 8 over 13 minus 3 over 13. Once again, we don't want the decimal, we want the fraction, and look, 5 over 13 is what we got. All right, moving on now to number 2. Number 2 may look a little complicated because there's 3 fractions, but don't let that worry you. Just type it in just like you see it into Desmos. So we're going to type in fraction 44 over 191 plus 29 over 191 plus fraction 51 over 191. And always make sure you type it in correctly because just like any human, we can make a mistake. All right, and then we don't want the decimal, we want the fraction, and we should get 124 over 191. 124 over 191. All right, I'm going to go ahead and give you a second. Let's go ahead and type in number 3 into your Desmos calculator. When you type that into your calculator, you should get 12. All right, moving on to number 4. We have right here number 4. We're going to type this on into Desmos just like you see it. So we have 11 over 20 plus fraction 13 over 35. Go ahead and press this button here and we get 129 over 140. As easy as that. And once again, you can use the calculator on every test, every quiz, every homework assignment, so please get used to it. All right, moving on to number 5. 823 divided by 1,000 minus 1/10. Go ahead, go to your Desmos calculator, and type it in. So we got a fraction, 823 over 1,000 minus 1 over 10. And press this little button, we get 723 over 1,000. 723 over 1,000. All right, moving on to number 6, we have 5 minus 6 over 11. 5 minus 6 over 11. So we have 5 minus 6 over 11. And we get 49 over 11. So 49 over 11. And once again, if I'm going too fast, pause the video, and I want y'all to go ahead and type in numbers 7 and 8 in your Desmos calculator. Type them in just like you see them. For number 7, you should have gotten 67 over 11. And for number 8, you should have gotten 4 over 21. And once again, just use your calculator every single time.